Hello and welcome to Mathssteps. Today we are going to learn how to illustrate inequalities graphically, or in different words, how to find the region that satisfies the inequality on a graph. Let's have a look at some examples. Now, we are going to draw the graph of x equals 1 first, and then we are going to use this skill to illustrate x bigger than 1, x smaller than 1, and x bigger and equal than 1 on a graph. And you see how this is going to help us represent the other three inequalities. So x equals 1. So plot the point x equals 1 and draw a solid line. It's equals to 1, draw a solid line. So all the points on this line have x equals 1. So this point here, x of this point here is 1. The x of this point here is 1. So wherever on the line, if you pick a point, the x of that point is going to be 1. All right, a straight line. Right, next one, x bigger than 1. Now, for when you solve inequalities, okay, means you need to find, graphically, you need to find the region that satisfies this inequality, x bigger than 1, for example. But you have to start from drawing the graph. And now x bigger than 1, so you need to draw the x equals 1 graph. But now there is something that you have to remember, because it is whether it's going to be a solid line or dotted line. And because this inequality says bigger than 1, then the line is not going to be a solid line. It's going to be a dotted line. All right, so draw a dotted line just like that. And let's find the region that satisfies x bigger than 1. So bigger than 1. So bigger than 1. So if you take a point here, for example, the x for this point here is going to be around 1.5, let's say 1.4. Okay, so it's bigger than 1. A point here is going to be bigger than 1.5. So again, it's still bigger than 1. Right, so all this region here satisfies the inequality x bigger than 1, which means we have to shade the opposite, the unwanted region. So this is the wanted. And I would advise you to write wanted. And the wanted, you never shade the wanted, you always shade the unwanted region. And you'll see the other questions or other examples that I'm going to give you, how important it is to leave the wanted region blank, especially when you illustrate more than two inequalities on the same pair of coordinates. Right, the next one is x smaller than 1. Again, x smaller than 1, we need to draw a dotted line because it's smaller than 1. And of course, the wanted area is going to be the left-hand side. This is the wanted, which means we are going to shade the unwanted. So you can use any color pen, any highlighter to shade the unwanted area. Next one, x bigger and equal than 1. Bigger and equal than 1. So this time we are going to draw a solid line, solid straight line, okay, on the x. And the wanted area is bigger. So this is the wanted. Write the word wanted, which means you have to shade with any color you like the unwanted region. All right, let's have a look at more examples. Illustrate the inequality x bigger than 3 on a graph. X bigger than 3. So you plot plot the x3. It's going to be here. So then you need to draw the graph x equals 3. But be careful here because it says x bigger than 3. So you need to draw a dotted line. A dotted line. So x bigger than 3, the wanted area, it is going to be this area here. Why? Because if you take a point on this area, for example, I'm going to take this point here. with coordinates 4, 0. So the x of this one is 4. So substitute 4 is going to be bigger than 3. And if you take another point anywhere on this region, this point here, for example, let's call it point B. This point, the x of this point is 5. So again, 5, bigger than 3. So all this region is the wanted region. And that means we have to highlight the unwanted area, which is the one on the left-hand side. So this is what is going to look, right? Next question. Why smaller and equal than -3? So this is where -3 is smaller and equal. That means you have to draw a solid line. This is the solid line that we need. Now, which region satisfies y smaller and equal than -3? Remember, smaller, you're dealing with a negative number, so all the points below the line, they satisfy the y smaller than -3. This point here, for example, the y of this point is -4. -4, smaller than -3, so it does satisfy our inequality. And which means all this region, it is the wanted region. And so what do you need to do? You shade the other region above. This is the unwanted. Wanted and unwanted. You always shade the unwanted region. Let's have a look at another example here. Illustrate the inequality y smaller and equal than x. So this is going to be a solid line, y equals smaller than x. Now let's find which area is the wanted, or region is the wanted, which one is the unwanted. So I would advise you to take a point on the x. So this one here, I'm going to call it A. Coordinates of points A are 1 and 0. So let's substitute 1, 0. So y smaller equal than x. So y is 0, 0 smaller than x, x is 1 smaller than 1. So this point here satisfies our inequality. If you take another point anywhere on this region, or let's say below the line, below the graph, this one here, you can tell 3, x, you can tell 1, or let's begin with the y. So 1, it is going to be smaller than the 3, smaller than x. So this region below the line is going to be the wanted. And that means we are not going to shade the wanted region, but we are going to shade this one, the other part above the line. And this is what the graph, the inequality, is going to look like. So represented on a graph. The region that satisfies the inequality is going to be this one here, the unshaded. This is the wanted. This is the area that satisfies the inequality, not the shaded one. We shade out the unwanted region. Okay. Now here we have two inequalities to represent on the graph. We have y smaller and equal than 3. So let's find the y. It is going to be smaller and equal than 3. So it's going to be a solid line. All right, just like that. Now smaller and equal than 3. So the wanted area is going to be this one. This is the word wanted, all right? And so we are going to shade the area above the y smaller and equal than 3. This is the unwanted area. Next one, x bigger than -1. Let's find -1. Then it's going to be a dotted line this time, remember, because it's just a bigger than -1. Dotted one, you can use a ruler. Now, bigger than -1. So which points satisfy the x bigger than -1? So any points on this area is going to be the wanted. So again, all the points on the right-hand side of the graph, x bigger than -1. So this one here is going to be the wanted, starting from here, wanted, okay, starting from this graph, the dotted line. And that means you are going to shade out the unwanted area. So this is the unwanted area. And so which part of the graph or which region satisfies both equation, both inequalities, I should say. So it's this one here, is the unwanted, can you see? Is the unwanted, unshaded region. Now, this is something for you to work independently. Illustrate both inequalities graphically. Find the region that satisfies both inequalities. Remember, write wanted for the area that satisfy each inequality. Do not shade that one, shade the unwanted. And you will see how much more simple and easier to identify the area or the region that satisfies both inequality will be. Thank you very much for watching Mathssteps. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.